Good morning from the beautiful Gold Coast. Another sensational day here in paradise. I just want to hit on today my journey to Jesus Christ, Christianity and God. My first experience with the gospel was when I was a child. I would go to Sunday school in an area in Sydney called Pyrmont. I never went there for any religious depth or support. I only went there to get the cakes that they were providing in the little park with cordial. At the back of a shop my mother used to manage in Harris Street. From there, the next time that I went to any form of religious doctrine was when I was in jail in 1983. I was being threatened with my life. The word was getting around that I was going to be killed, stabbed, maimed to death by older prisoners. I had seen prisoners attack people when I was in prison as a young person. My age at that time was 19. And I remember going to my cell one night and I picked up a Bible which was placed in every cell in institutions that I experienced, and boys' homes. And I went to a section about being fearful. I identified it that I may lose my life, and I was scared. And I don't remember the passage as such, but I remember it reassuring me when I was told not to fear anything. God had my back and I was going to be okay. That gave me some comfort during that time in my life. The other times I went to God and the scriptures was when I used to steal from the convents in and around Sydney when I was a heroin addict. And I remember stealing from a convent in Abbotsford. And we were interrupted in that theft. I was with another guy. And we both run for the small window that we got through in a bathroom. And the guy that I was with shoulder charged me. And I landed on a bed to get to that small window before I could get to it, so we could both escape. He was out and I followed him through the small window. And when I got through the other side onto the street, my left hand was still up high on the windowsill and I couldn't run away because I'd been stabbed through the finger with a screwdriver and I couldn't move. So I pulled the screwdriver out of my finger and I got away. After that incident, I was in and out of prisons for years. And I can remember we used to call them the God Squad, coming into jail and wanting to convert prisoners to Jesus and the gospel. I used to find it interesting that these people had the courage to come into these environments and start preaching the gospel. It was humorous, actually. And they were very determined to say prayers, even if souls didn't want to hand their soul over to Jesus Christ and the gospel. Come on, Dean, they would say. Just give your heart and soul to the Lord and everything will be good. I'm not ready, was my response. And I wasn't going to do something that I wasn't comfortable doing. So I didn't give my heart and soul to the Lord because I was genuinely and truly a non-believer. I continued on during life, and the only connection that I had with the Bible was pulling the pages out of the Bible when I was locked up in segregation, or DUs as they used to call them. I used to use the Bible paper as tally-ho papers and rolly papers for tobacco, to smoke the tobacco that was placed in food from the guys from the kitchen, wrapped up in plastic with some flint and a few matches. It burned all right. It did the job. I continued on in my life, robberies, drug taking, antisocial behaviour, not having any empathy for other people, no compassion, self-centeredness, and a whole lot of pain within my soul that had been with me ever since I was a child. I was trapped within my soul, and I didn't know how to get out of it because it was everybody else's fault why I was trapped in that soul. Until the day come, after a stint in a rehabilitation centre in 1989, where I was now 25. I had spent 4 months in this centre, and I didn't go to this centre to change. I had no intentions of changing. And in this centre, which was called Logan House, the program would not allow any form of religious doctrine into their program. And the reason this was is that they didn't want the residents to rely wholly and solely on the doctrine. Little did I know that the principles they were teaching me at that point and stage in my life was all about the Bible. taking accountability for myself, not blaming others for the way I feel, finding my heart, acting in loving ways, being truthful, being honest about my behaviours and how I was conducting myself in my life, showing affection, finding the courage to try another way in my completely madness that I was living. And it wasn't until 6 months in this program, after continuous confrontation about how intimidating I was acting, how threatening I was acting, the lies, the deceit, how untrustworthy I was, how aggressive I was, that one day I broke down and I cried. And after that moment of the emotional tears that just kept flowing out of my eyes, I realised that I was accountable for all of this behaviours and actions and the bad way I was living. And it was nobody else's fault other than mine. And I cried for 5 hours straight. I just couldn't stop crying. I was like a baby. And I remember the words just coming out of my mouth. I am sick to death of being controlled. In that rehab, in all the boys' homes I was in, all the prisons I was in, I had had enough. And I cried and cried and cried, and I fell to my knees. And the next morning, I awoke. I slept for about 12 hours. And when I awoke the next morning, I felt really light on my feet, like somebody had sucked all the badness out of me. And I used to hate myself, and I used to hate the way I looked. And I was really self-conscious. And I got up that next morning and I spoke to a resident about how I was feeling. And I said to this resident, I feel good. I feel good. And the resident made me aware of vulnerability, and I had then become vulnerable after that outburst and after all those tears. And I said to that resident, if this is vulnerability, I never ever want to leave it. I found peace in being broken. That's the first part of my journey to Jesus through the gospel and to God. Have a good day. God bless us all. And if you want to give it a like or subscribe, don't be shy. Look after yourselves. Take care. Stay strong. Keep walking through darkness. and keep doing the things that you don't want to do. There is light. God bless.